A funny taste in music with Andrew Bird.
Hello, welcome to A Funny Taste in Music. This one is Rob Brydon, obviously. You haven't just clicked on this by accident. You've seen who's on. You've come here specifically. I supported him on tour. At the end of a tour, he very nicely, said, if you ever need anything, give me a shout. And you might be thinking, so what have you done? You've exploited that good gesture, have you? You've seen we're in national lockdown. He's got nowhere to hide. He's at home. He hasn't got much to do. So you've cornered him, basically. He's probably trying to spend some well-earned time with his family. But no, you've made him do a podcast. That's exactly what I've done. He was great fun on tour. It was such a good laugh. There was me, him, and his tour manager, Jen. And she's from South Wales as well. Really funny. And Rob is, if you like him on like Would I Like You and stuff, and Gavin and Stacey, and you wonder what he's really like. Is he always funny? Yes, he is. He's everything and more you'd hope he would be. I remember one gig, the next day, Jen, the tour manager, was going home for Mother's Day, and he likes a bit of, self-importance and arrogance. Fake, put on self-importance and arrogance. And Rob said to Jen, so what are you doing? She said, oh, my family's going to be there, uncles and aunties, everyone. And Rob said, oh, you know what's going to happen. They'll all be asking about me. It'll all be, what's he really like? Is he as great as he is on telly? Nightmare. Oh, he's well funny. And this was great fun talking to him. I knew how much he loved music, so I knew he'd love a chat about music. And his tour was interrupted. He'll be back on tour soon. It's called Rob Brydon and his fabulous band. And it'll be him and a full band playing songs and telling stories, basically. He's a great storyteller, Rob. So it'll be a great show. So if you see that's near you, I would definitely go and get a ticket for that. It's great. That yawn was a dog. Was a dog yawning, if you heard that right at the end. I nearly got to the end of this without a dog making a noise. Right at the death. Oh, anyway, enjoy these adverts, and then it's the brilliant Rob Brydon.
A funny taste in music. The interview next.
I like the one ear monitor out look.
Yeah.
You look like Springsteen, where he's just, that point where you don't know what he's done.
Yeah,
something's gone on. He's had to take one
funny.
out.
Yeah, that's very funny.
It's a good look. I like it.
Well, it means I can hear myself a bit now, but I'm getting you in both ears, which is how I like you.
Yeah. You want me in. You don't want me in mono. You never want me in mono.
No. Although some people say they prefer the mono masters of your albums. I know that.
Yeah, to separate it up. I have got the perfect way to start this podcast. Mm-hmm. You'll like this. It's an anecdote that involves you doing charity work, being generous and thoughtful, and it involves music all in one.
Wow.
I know, what a start. And this,
I can't think what this could be, because I don't think those ingredients have ever combined together in my life.
It was a heady mix. They all come together, and it was what I told you. If at any point someone says to me, oh, you supported Rob Brydon, remember I told you this will be my go-to what's Rob Brydon like story. This is what I'll pull out. And it was, I think we were doing Scarborough. It was early December, cold, dark, and I remember you telling us that you were doing a charity. You were making a big thing about the fact you were doing a charity gig. I think you could have mentioned it a number of times, but it was an interesting one. That's what it was, because it was for homeless, to raise awareness for homeless, and people were camping out, and you were sort of hosting, and Liam Gallagher was headlining. And all I said, just in passing, just casually, just mentioned, I love Oasis. That's the band I love Liam Gallagher. That was it. Nothing was mentioned again. Weeks later, the letterbox rattles. There's a letter in the post. I open it up. I didn't reckon it was handwritten, so I thought that can't be a bill. So I was relaxed a bit. And it was a letter from you. You got his set list. I've got it here. I went and dug it out. Got it here. You went and picked up his set list and posted it to me. This is the thoughtful bit. This is the generous bit of it. And I'll just read out the last bit. I thought you might like this. I would have got him to sign it for you, but he's a moody chap and he was gone in a flash. Merry Christmas, Rob. But I remember thinking, because you didn't express, any massive love of Oasis to me. You just sort of, they might not be your thing, but what I liked was you thought he would appreciate that. That showed to me a deep love of music. And I noticed on that tour as well, quite often you'd be watching music videos on YouTube and performances on your phone. I thought, I'd do that. You don't often see other people do that. Just watching live performances.
I do loads of that because, and I like Oasis, but they're not my thing. I don't have that passion for them like you do. But I recognised your passion for them might be how I feel about, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen or something like that. So I knew that something like a set list, would mean a lot to you. And it was easy to do. It was lying there, and I thought he'd like that. And of course Liam had gone from the stage by then, and it was a braver man than me that would approach him. But when we were touring, yes, I often do that. You have so much time when you're on tour, so much dead time, and there are some people who are industrious enough to be writing and creating, in other words. I'm not necessarily one of them. I'll have spurts where I can be like that, but most of the time I'm consuming. Although I think when you do that, you're learning all the time. You're watching, and it would be either music or comedy. Those would be the things I'd be watching. So if it was comedy, it would be mostly American stuff, mostly people and people sort of from another era, like Don Rickles, very much. He's dead. You can't be more from another era than being dead. People like that, and those old shows, and Jack Benny and people like that. But then, then I love Martin Short, and I would look up his stuff. So, and I do think when you're watching that stuff, you're sort of learning. But then music-wise, I would love to find stuff, particularly Bruce stuff. There's so much of him now you can find on the internet. And that's how I would spend my time before a show. It also can get you nice and worked up, and energized. Because when you've been on tour for a while, some of that adrenaline can go, and you've got to sort of manufacture it almost. And if it's, a Thursday in Scarborough, I mean, it's the most, don't get me wrong, Scarborough is a lovely place, bracing, I would say. And wonderful fish and chips and stuff. And of course, Alan Ayckbourn. However, if it's tour date number 89, you can need something to, jumpstart you.
Yeah, and a bit of Springsteen. I mean, one of his 9-hour gigs. There's so many standout moments in one of his gigs. But well,
I'll tell you one of the things that I did used to listen to a lot, and this. You shouldn't have to make excuses for this. I'm a massive Neil Diamond fan. I think it's always damning with faint praise when you say that horrible phrase, underrated, or doesn't get the credit he deserves. Because I think amongst people who know what they're talking about, of course he does. But nonetheless, I think there is another school of thought that perhaps doesn't quite appreciate the talent of the guy and the songs and everything. And he did a live album not that long ago, about 10 years ago in New York, and it opens with a sort of an overture. It's really good. It's his band are warming up, so it's like an orchestra warming up, and then he just sneaks into it a little bit of Song Sung Blue, and so as they're doing it, you just make out just 3 notes, and you go, oh. And then the band starts playing this song he had from years ago called Holly Holy. Very simple song. It's 3 chords. Maybe it goes to 4 eventually. You can play it on the guitar so easily. And it gets going, and this is his intro. He's coming on, and you can hear the crowd, and the backing singers are going, anyway, the bit I'm getting to is there's a key change. And it's so theatrical. and it's whoa, it goes da 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 da, and I've played that in my dressing room many times to make me feel it's a show. People have come. This is a big thing. Oh, and I know it's another night for you, i.e. me, and you've dealt with whatever nonsense you've dealt with all that day, and you may have just been on the phone, calming down an angry child or something, but you've got to get into your head that it's the show.
That moment between a musician and the audience where it all, you forget those gigs where it's not just their, you could have been just listening to their CD where you see the audience. I love that. Love those moments.
Yeah.
I mean, during your show as well, you'd say, wore your music taste on your sleeve. You literally wore it all over you in a jumpsuit. Come on at the end. We can say it now. We can say it now. The tour's done.
Yeah.
But because it was the big reveal at the end, you just drip feed in during the show that I'd love to have been like Elvis and do Burning Love. I'd love to just casually, and then at the end, the big encore, come back out in the jumpsuit, full suit. Lovely. So, I mean, you just drip fed your obsession with Elvis during the show. Yeah. And then what a moment at the end. Burning Love. I
quite liked doing that. I quite liked the theatricality of it, of just seeding it. Some nights I'd forget to
nearly the end.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Do you remember that? And I'd come off and, oh God, I haven't mentioned Elvis. But and then it was the encore. So it was as if I'd finished the show, you see. Thanks very much for coming. And I'd go off, and then the music would start. The music he used to use, which is Also Sprach Zarathustra, or the theme from 2001, of course. And they go da 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 bum 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 bum. And that's how he used to start his gigs. So if I hadn't seeded it enough, people think, what's going on? Well, the show obviously hasn't finished. The house lights haven't come up. And then I'd come out. But it worked best when I'd remembered to say, I grew up loving Elvis. And what I would say was, I used to dream of playing in a place like this. And we, on the tour, we did Australia as well. So I got to say this at the Sydney Opera House, and I used to dream of coming here. I said, I would have dreamed coming out like Elvis. I said, of course, well, I've made it to the venue, but rather than being like Elvis, and I used to reference a bit of the act, which is when I talked about how as you get older, you don't pee with quite the same ferociousness you once did. So I would say, but rather than saying, I'm just telling you about my diminished pee, and they'd laugh at that, But so then, if I had drip fed this all the way through, the impact of coming out as Elvis, and it was a good suit, it wasn't a novelty. Well, yeah, it wasn't a fancy dress shop suit. It was one that I got made in America, and it fit like a glove. It was striking, Andrew. That's a good word for it. Yes.
As you come out, you could, because I would stay and watch. I could. You could see the darkness as on stage. I could see the audience and the lights on you in the Elvis suit. Sometimes I wish you could see it from where I'm sat, because you get the full appreciation of it. And many a nights you got standing ovations as you were throwing the neckerchiefs out, and you were getting standing over, because it's uplifting song. It's very uplifting.
Well, when I first did that gag, it's interesting. The idea essentially came from being an Elvis fan, and I think you've got to make shows as personal as you can so that they resonate as genuine and sincere. And I had had this idea at a charity again, at a charity gig.
When will you stop? Just stop giving back.
Oh, I give so much, don't I? I'm a giver. And I'd done this gig, and now for that one, I did rent just any old bog standard Elvis suit. That when they do them, they don't really look like Elvis suits. They look like something like Flash Gordon would have worn. It's a strange approximation. Anyway, I put it on, and I had this idea, which worked, because normally in my act, I will have a relationship with people in the audience in the front row, and I'll often, if I can find someone that I have an antagonistic relationship with, it works quite well. And if it's a woman, it works really well, that I get annoyed with her for some reason. I feel that she's undermining me,
Yeah.
And that works nicely, and you can keep going back to her and as if she's ruining my evening, right? So I had this thing where at this gig, I did a bit of that. And then, I can't remember if I was already wearing this suit or not. I come on in the suit, and with these scarves, and I would have lots of scarves around my neck, because Elvis used to hand out scarves. A lot of people, I'm sure, don't know that, but that's what he used to do in his gigs. So I came out with a lot of scarves, and I was singing The Wonder of You, which with the fullness of time I realised didn't have a quick enough tempo for the energy of the end of a show. But my aim then was to get people singing along with it. And the joke was basically that I would give a scarf to this person that had annoyed me. And then I would give her another scarf, and then another scarf, and then another scarf. And I would go from friendliness to briskness to outright anger, until at the end I've given her about 20 or 30 scarves. She's covered in scarves.
You're screwing them up and throwing them violently.
That's right, yes. Now, so I did that, and that worked really well. So then when it came to the tour, I thought, I'll do that thing. That's a good way to end the show. But what I found, number one, The Wonder of You is not high energy enough, whereas Burning Love is da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And also, some nights, I hadn't established somebody, that it would work with, because you can't just throw them all at somebody. It's a little bit funny, but the reason it was very funny was because people knew, that's the person that's really been annoying him all night.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to, you can kind of nudge that situation, but you can't entirely manufacture it. And so there would be nights, and I remember thinking, God, I haven't got anybody. I don't have anybody. So in the end, and I think by the time you came on as my support, it had changed to, it was Burning Love. And then it became a more celebratory thing. And what I would do instead is hand out scarves to different people and name check them, because they were people that I had spoken to during the show.
Yeah.
And audiences like that, because one of the easiest ways to impress an audience is to remember things, because they've not been concentrating like you have. So if you can remember 3 audience members' names, they think they've witnessed the flying Zambezi, this incredible, it's like, my God, how did you do that? Well, because I knew I had to, and so I've been, and in the interval I might have gone off and even written them down just so I remember them,
Yeah.
So that's how that thing, and it became it was a great part of the show. I really liked it.
And I would say, not to, I mean this honestly. You had to go and undermine it. You sang it very well. But then what I loved is, even though you sang it very well, undermined it by throwing scarves at a lady, which you have to do. You can't be too sincere in comedy. You can't go and ruin the show by being too good a singer at the end. But you did sing it very well. But I love the really subtle thing you do to then undermine the whole thing and make you the fool again. Just subtly, just picking the jumpsuit out your ass a bit, like it was.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Every night that made me laugh out loud.
Well, yeah, because at the end, then
raucous cheer, and then you'd stand there with your arms out, and they just start going, picking out your ass.
Yeah, well, that probably came from reality, that I would get to the end, and this suit, as I say, it was measured for me, but in the course of a tour you probably snack a bit more than you normally would, so it would become a bit tight. And anyway, as you raise your arms in the air, because this had been made on my measurements that I sent them, it wasn't made on any fitting with them in the room, so you'd raise your arms up, and of course it would go up the crack of your bum, and then you realise that's quite a nice thing. If you then reach down trying to pull it out of the crack of your bottom, it was a nice little detail. But it's interesting you talk about, not singing it too well. That's a very interesting point, because, you're there to be funny, and you don't want to, I mean, I do sing a bit. My new tour is is a tour with a band, and there are songs in there that I'm very much singing as well as I can. Yeah. But you've got to then have a balance. There's got to be humorous stuff in there as well. Otherwise, I think it can seem a little indulgent.
As comedians, you're not supposed to be that good at things. But your new show, so because that tour, you did a bit of everything. That tour, you start off, it'd be like comparing in a comedy club, chatting to everyone, being funny. Like you want to see a comedian just being funny. You want to see their material, but if you prove you're being funny, they trust all your material more. Then you seamlessly went into material, and then you'd go. I think it was then you'd go into I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. If they had real proper celebrities,
which was a device to do impressions. That's right. Yeah.
So then you got impressions, and then you go in with the guitar playing some songs with a kind of not a Q&A, but people could ask you questions, and then you tell stories, play a few songs. Is this new show? I remember watching that, thinking, I could watch that bit all night as well.
Good. That's own. Great. Yeah, that's lovely to hear.
Was that where you got the idea?
Yeah, well, it was a few things. It was the fact that I've always sung. You know, I did musicals at school, and then I've sung on shows like Gavin and Stacey and radio shows like I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. And within my stand-up act, there's always been a bit of singing at the end. So I'd always done that. But and then once you get a bit of a name, you know, you get the chance, you get offers to make albums and things, and it's no creative judgment. It's just a financial thing, you know. Somebody thinks, right, well, he could sell X amount, you know, and I've always said no to that because I've some said, do you want to make an album? I said yes, but I don't want to release an album.
Those are two very different things.
Yeah, I'd love to make an album, you know, to spend the time with the band in the studio and all that stuff. But I don't want to be on Lorraine talking about. I mean, I want to be on Lorraine. She's adorable, but I don't want to be on there saying, now, our next guest, you know him mostly as Uncle Bryn, but he's also, you know, and you have to kind of justify it. So now maybe I will release from one day, but so I'd wanted to do musical stuff. And yes, certainly in the show that you were with me on, the last half an hour probably was music, and I loved it. And I was really putting my toes in the water, and I was seeing how much the audience liked it. And I would see that, you know, I could sit there with the guitar and be pretty relaxed, and it held their attention and they liked it, you know. Because it takes a bit, when I'm not a proper guitarist, you know, I came to it quite late, and I know the bare minimum to do what I do on stage with it. So that's where that came from. And it also came from wanting to do music. You know, I'd love to do a musical, but with young children, although they're getting older by the minute. But that's a big ask because it takes you out of the house for 6 nights a week and you are knackered on the Sunday. And I'm sorry to anybody listening who says being on the stage is not a proper job. You don't get tired. Well, you do. There are lots of different ways of getting tired in life. And, you know, it asks a lot of your wife or your partner, you know, to say, right, I'm off. So what I did instead was what happened was there's a guy called Joe Stilgo, who's a hugely talented musician, composer, comedian, very, very funny guy. I'd known him for a long time. And I would sometimes pop up in shows of his and we'd do a funny little bit together. And one night I was doing it, and a producer who I already knew, actually, Ed Snape, was in the crowd, and he said, you ought to do and he just produced something that Barry Humphries, who I adore, had done on stage. And he said, you ought to put a kind of cabaret thing together. And cabaret, I think, to some people is a dirty word. It's not to me. I think it's, when it's done well, it's superb. I mean, it's interesting. People always cite Sammy Davis Jr. as the king of that, and I agree. But even, I remember when I was I was filming one of my commercials on a large boat, and there was they have different rooms on those ships, There's one big one where they have a company and maybe a comedian will play, but they also have a smaller, intimate sort of setting, what you might call a supper club or something. I think this had little tables for drinks. It's very lovely. And Madeline Bell performed. Now, Madeline Bell might not be known to a certain age group, but I think she's in her 70s now. I'm not going to say perhaps more. I just say she's in her 70s. And she was on all sorts of records in I think the late 60s, the 70s. People might know most from Blue Mink, who had that song Melting Pot. You know, all we need is a great big melting pot. That one.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, she was performing, and it was her with a pianist. And my God, what a show. And it was just her. And, you know, listen, you're on a ship, so it's not as if people are seeking you out. You are the entertainment, and so you've got to entertain that audience.
They're tough gigs.
Oh, absolutely.
For comedians, they're tough.
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
musicians
listen,
as well.
Yeah, I saw a few on the time I spent on those ships filming all that stuff. I would always go and watch the comedians, see whoever was on, you know.
Oh.
And
they were delighted to see your face in the audience. That's all you need. Died on your ass. Is that Rob Brydon?
No.
What?
Yeah, but on that point though, but don't you think that all comedians have bad gigs? And I'm not saying that the ones I saw necessarily had bad gigs, but don't you think that at a certain point we all know that it's possible to have a bad gig? I'm not sure that you make any particular judgments. You just say, yeah, he or she, that wasn't a good night. I mean, I'll still have, not so much if it's my audience, but if it's a corporate thing, you know, where you're just the entertainment, you can easily go down badly. It just.
I've heard two really funny stories of cruise gigs for comedians on cruises. The audience are a lot older, like you say. They're not there to see you. Suddenly, there's comedy on. They're eating. They're like, what? Yeah. If someone's doing stand up, they're told to keep it cleanish, but still, it's not their thing. And then you've got, not only do you have a bad gig, you've then got to see them all at breakfast. Stuff like that. And I've heard two stories of someone who was doing so badly, and he was quite unpleasant as well. And at one point they docked, and he had to stay in his cabin, and then he had to be choppered off the boat or something at some point because they weren't going to be back docking for so long. They chopped him off.
Wow.
And then I heard another one of someone who died on his arse at the gig, and there was hardly anyone there, so he thought, well, at least not everyone saw it. Then he woke up, he turned the telly on in his cabin, and they have in entertainment program, they were showing the repeat of his gig on all the screens in everyone's cabins. Oh my God. So everyone, and it looked worse because on the screen you can't hear any audience whatsoever. So then, just to make sure everyone, he said I didn't eat for about a day and a half because I didn't want to leave my room.
Oh well, there we are. That's a real check the contract moment, isn't it? I mean, what, you're filming it? Okay, what are you filming it for? Just for an art? No, we show it. We show it on the
out of context.
Yeah, we just show it, you know, so people, if they've missed, you show it and they see it in their cabins. Yeah, what's the sound mix like for the audience? We don't worry about that so much. You know?
No, we don't.
But the thing is, but you can also see fantastic entertainment. I remember seeing a comedian that I'd known years ago, and he was working on the ship, and I went to see him, and he was very good, and we spoke afterwards, and the stuff that had gone down the best that he was doing was the stuff all about the ship, right? All the observational stuff about the ship. But he was also then putting in other stuff which didn't go as well. And afterwards we were talking, and he was saying, I mean, I think he called it the ship shit. I think that's what maybe they refer to it as that. You know, they say, the ship shit goes down well, you know, but I'm trying to do more of this, trying to do more of that. And I must admit, my inner response was, why? You know, this audience loved that stuff. I mean, they loved it. And it was good. You know, I was laughing. But he kind of felt it was, but that's just, you know, what I want to do is this. And it's very noble I suppose, in one way. But anyway, watching that Madeline Bell and seeing those people. So what I did was I I actually auditioned 6 different musical directors because I wanted to do it properly and slowly. And I found they were all amazing, but then it becomes a question of personality and who'd you get on with. So I went with a wonderful chap called Paul Herbert, and he and I then spent weeks, maybe once a week, meeting up in Chiswick. He would bring some songs, I would bring some songs. Thinking, well, what's it going to be? You know, what are we going to do? And he also began to work on my voice, because I'd always had an okay voice, but the things that he's done with the exercises he's done have been amazing, you know, amazing in making it, increasing the range and making it stronger, more durable. And I would have happily just carried on meeting him once a week. You know, that thing of
to do that.
Yeah, I'll record an album, but I don't want to release one, because I was just enjoying that. And then the producer was saying, "Look, you got to do something here." So we booked a week, which is I think 2 Christmases ago, at a lovely little venue called Crazy Coq's on Piccadilly. Do you know that?
No.
It's where it's Brasserie Zadel is a huge brasserie called Zadel, and this is a little performance room next to it. It only seats about 90 people, but it's awfully grown up and lovely. And anyway, I went in there, just he and I, and we did a week trying out the basic structure of what the show would be to see how it worked, and I learned a lot, you know, doing that. And then I had a few musicians I'd worked with that I wanted, and we managed to get them, and he suggested them. And then we put together this show then with the band, and we did 12 before the lockdown happened. So now I'm just, but to go back to what you were saying, it's like a whole show of the last half an hour of the show that you worked on.
That's what I sort of thought it would be, and thought, oh, that's perfect. Because there was bits where you were telling stories, and I could imagine then going into the music, and you, bless you, just sat there on that big stage on a stool. I could imagine a whole band around you, and it's going to be that kind of thing. That is there points where you're playing with all those you know, as you said, you play the guitar and you sing, but you must have had moments where they start playing and you were like, whoa, what?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the interesting thing. So on when I was doing my solo show, and I sit there with my guitar, so I would play Islands in the Stream from Gavin and Stacey, which the way I do it is just C, F. There's a C7 in there, and there's a D minor, and I think that's about it. And I can manage that. And also, you're playing the same thing every night. Pretty soon it becomes muscle memory. I did a nice bit that I used to do where I would get someone out of the audience and do "Close to You" by the Carpenters. Do you remember that bit?
I was going to ask you if you
that was one of my favourite. Well, band. I haven't.
That would be fun.
I don't know
it.
I could only do it in towns that I hadn't visited on the last tour, because I'd done it before. You know, I've seen it before.
I think people would like to see that with a full band, even if they've seen it, because the impact of a full band stopping and then someone.
Oh yeah,
so
that's interesting. Actually, yeah, maybe I will.
If for those who didn't, well, should we say what it was? Because
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. But
you'd get someone on stage to join in. We'll say that.
Yeah.
And in an affectionate way, you would let them be the star of the song. We'll say it like that.
yeah. But it was that was one of my favourite bits of material, and it grew, and you know, you'd find new little bits. I remember one night, I don't want to give away too much about it, but I remember one night doing a little thing that then became a regular. And as I did it, I was thinking, oh my God. It was like I just discovered relativity or something like that. I thought, oh, gee, oh, wow, this takes it to another level. And it became about 7 minutes of stuff. Although, what I'll tell people, it was getting someone out of the audience, and they would basically play the xylophone. Is that what glockenspiel? Play the glockenspiel, right, for me. And you learn as you're doing it that it doesn't work if they can do it. So you don't want to have somebody with musical ability.
No.
And there were 1 or 2 nights where I made the mistake of bringing someone up who could play.
Keen.
You always don't want somebody who's keen, no matter what it is. If you're ever getting anyone on the stage, you do not want someone who wants to be there. But nor do you want someone who might have a stroke in the middle of it. I've had a couple of those where I've got someone out and I've been looking at them thinking, oh God, hope this is not gonna.
Seeing them get up the steps to the stage was perilous enough, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So you've got to try and somehow find just the right person, and what that person is somebody who is polite, courteous, but with a quite low embarrassment threshold.
Yeah.
And for this gag, no musical ability. But yeah, you're right. It might work with. I might try it with the band actually. The only thing with when I was doing it on the guitar is that I'm in control, and that's the thing with the band is everyone's got to be together. But what you were saying about playing, so I would be able to play. I could play that on the guitar, and I could do a few silly things. Yeah. So I thought, well, with the band, let's do something where I play the guitar, just a simple thing with the band. And I'll tell you what, though. It's a whole other thing if you're playing along with the band. And I found it strangely difficult because I don't know if people realize, but if it's not what you do all the time, there's a difference between playing the guitar at home and playing it in front of an audience because other parts of your brain are being occupied just by being on stage and being aware of the audience. And sometimes even when it was with the band, not so much on my own because I sort of got that down okay, but with a band, it can be hard because they're fantastic musicians. So I soon withdrew from that and said, no, I'll leave all that to you.
Oh, yeah, there was there's that story of Noel Gallagher. The first time he had played an actual gig, he had to buy a strap because he'd never played a guitar stood up.
Yeah.
Because when you play at home, you just sat on your bed, aren't you? So
that's really interesting. That's very interesting because, yes. Well, it's a similar thing to trying to play. I would be sitting down when I did this with the band and, suddenly you've got your brain is too busy. It's just too busy.
You don't know where your hands should be. There's all sorts of considerations.
That's right.
It's like doing stand-up for the first time. You've got a funny idea. Then when you're in front of an audience, you suddenly think, why am I doing that with my arm? Why's my hand there? You don't know where should I stand like this?
That's
all
right.
These things.
Yeah,
with
that's
a
right.
whole band around you that are amazing musicians. But there's no pressure on you to be an amazing musician. You can just
but you've got to be able to hold your own. Well, no, what I mean is you can't get in the way. You can't impede the song. You may not enhance it, but you don't want to be taking anything away from it.
Yeah, but and then between the songs, were you sort of just tell some stories?
Yeah, well, we got a structure to it which developed, which was sort of autobiographical. So it starts with talking about being at school and being shy with girls, but being confident on the stage. And I talk about how I met Ruth Jones at Porthcawl Comprehensive School. We would go on to do Gavin and Stacey together.
Was that school, as in?
Yeah, school.
11 to 16. Oh, I thought it was like drama college.
No.
That really, was really young then.
Yeah, I was about 14, I think, when I met her, maybe 15. And we were in musicals together. So Guys and Dolls, Carousel, Sweet Charity, West Side Story. So I've known her for forever. And so I tell these stories and then illustrate the early ones with songs from those shows. And there's a story about... In Guys and Dolls, I played Sky Masterson, and he has to go on a date with this Salvation Army worker who was played by a girl at school, and I was just head over heels in love with her, and I'd never had a girlfriend. I was shy in that sense, but I certainly wasn't swaggering around the place. And in the rehearsals, of course, we'd have to sing to each other these love songs. I've never been in love before, and my confused little teenage heart and mind. So I tell that story and sing that song, and then it goes through things I've done in my career. So there's stuff about, I've done a few shows with Tom Jones, so there are some stories. There's a particular story about a show I did with him and how intimidating it is to sing with him and we were sat on stools and, that takes a bit of bottle, to keep your nerve there. And then just the other stuff in there would be, I suppose, I improvise. Well, I think I always improvise on the shows that you did. I would make up a song about the people that were in the audience that night.
Oh, yeah.
So I still do that. Well, we do that now with a full band. And there's stuff from, I come out, I do a little bit as Bryn at the end. So we have Islands in the Stream. And there's a bit of Dylan Thomas in there. Then there are just songs that I like and that tell a story. There's a lovely old Billy Joel song that reminds me of when my eldest child, who's now 26, was born. And I tell that.
Why does it remind you when he was born?
Because it's a song called Lullaby, which was on his River of Dreams album. And it's a beautiful song. And I sang it to her when she was born. She was born, and I was at one point. It was just me and her in the room because Mum was wheeled away to be checked out and everything, and I was left holding her. And it was the middle of the night, and there was moonlight coming through this window in this room, and it was all quiet. And I just, I'm not saying I sang the whole damn thing to her, but I didn't get up. I didn't put her in a corner, stand up and go, but I sang this song to her. So it's very dear
What'd you think
to
of
me.
this? What'd you think of this?
Yeah.
Prop yourself up. Just lay there. That's funny. I've got the same thing with my son. I've got a song that always reminds me of him. And it was a song that I loved before. So it's not, so he's changed it. So now it's about him. Blackbird by the Beatles.
Oh, yes.
My son's called Zach Bird. And I used to sing it, change the words. It were fun. Zach Bird singing in the dead of night. So, yeah, there's something about singing to a newborn baby, though, that is ingrained in your brain after that it means, yeah.
Well, it's a huge moment, and especially when it's your first child, it's all very new and... So anyway, so that's the show, and we were meant to be out with it. Well, we stopped last year. We were hoping to get back out this spring. That's not happening. The next thing now is autumn, and I'm hopeful for that. We've got dates out there now in September, October, November.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, good. So that sounds. Yeah. When I heard you, I saw that tour. Firstly, I was angry and resentful because I saw it and thought, well, you're not doing just stand-up. Well, that means I'm not supporting you then.
Yeah. So there's no support on there.
No, so I was bitter towards you for that. And once I got past that, then I thought, oh, that's a great idea for a show. That's perfect for you. So that bit with a full band, that would be great. So yeah, because
it's a funny thing though, because I was quite hesitant because it's. You're not sure how they're going to react. And indeed, the audience are coming and you know how much attention they've paid when they book other than going, oh, we like Rob Brydon, let's go and see him. He's coming to our town. We enjoyed it a lot. That's my philosophy is always you want them to remember the last time and think, oh, I'll go again. We felt good when we went to see him. A band. Oh, you got a band, is he? And then I think also they don't expect the band to be of the quality that they are. I think they were, do you remember... Frank Skinner used to have on his show. He'd have I'm sure they were wonderful musicians, but he would make a thing. Yeah, he'd make a thing out of them just being there. And I wonder if people are expecting just the bare minimum. Well, this is a 9-piece band, or as I like to call it, an expensive band. And
nice. Good early joke. Get that in early.
Oh, I do actually. Yeah. So the audience, they're thinking, oh, what is this? So you have to. There has to be plenty of funny in there. Otherwise, as I say, I think they're going to come and go, oh, it's not really what we want from you,
That's, I noticed that when I was supporting you on tour, it's your show is, in a weird way, it's like you've got to cater for all your, it's a good problem to have. You've got to cater for all of your different sections of fans. Would I Like You, Gavin and Stacey, music. Yeah. And people, someone's going to want some impersonations at some point.
Yeah.
There's all that going on. You covered it all.
Well, I remember when we were planning the tour that you did with me. I remember when I was planning it, thinking just that. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay, because I'm not great at getting a new show together, And right, I gotta do it. As Jason Manford suggested to me, well, just who was it? I think Michael McIntyre said to me, don't do your warm-ups in clubs. Just play to your audience. So, you book a place, a small place for not much money, for the tickets, and just your audience. And it was Jason who said, get them to ask you questions. And then you by doing that, you find out what it is they want to hear you talking about. So I booked, there's a school near here there's a hall that seats about 300, but it's quite a nice little theatre space. So you do that for, I don't know, was it £5 a ticket, something like that? Not very much anyway. So that if you weren't very good, they can't really begrudge you because it really wasn't that much. And I would do those, and record it, of course, and I'd have a few ideas. But then you'd always come up with stuff on the stage and you come, oh, that's a nice bit, that's a nice bit, that's a nice bit. And in terms of the impressions, obviously, there's a thing I can do and, people like it. So I think, well, how am I going to put them in? I can't remember how I did them on the previous tour, and then came up with this idea of them all being on, well, the joke was, people say to me, they come up to me every day and they say, why have you never been on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here? And
the joke was they come up to you and they say, Gino?
No, they say Anton.
Oh,
that was that's I would do that early.
Yeah.
I do that early on.
Yeah.
People come up to me every day and they say, Anton, yeah, that always gets a laugh. And then, but with this one, they say, why haven't you been on I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here? And I would say, because I have a career, right? And that would get a laugh. And then I'd say, but hey, listen, I love Anton Deck, everybody does, which is true. And I'd say I'd go on it. I said, if they had real celebrities, right? Which is just an excuse then to do, so I do them saying, we're going down to the camp now. And I used to do this thing about not being able to do a Geordie accent, which was, again, a few laughs. And so we're going to tell you now who's been nominated or nominated. And so then I do basically my handful of impressions. So sure enough, Ronnie is in there, and Sean Connery and Roger Moore and Al Pacino and all these people. Yeah.
I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah. So that was just a device, it's just a device to do those voices. And then, so you design the show almost like a department store. We need the sports department, we need this, we need the impressions department, we need the musical department, we need the talking to the audience department, we need this, we need the observational stuff. So on the last tour, it was all about getting old. But that thing of, I'm always amazed whenever I see a comedian having a beef on social media with another comedian and saying, so-and-so has stolen my joke. I don't think I've ever met any comedians who would knowingly go, so-and-so's doing that, I'm going to do it. I mean, I don't think it works like that. I think we're all being inspired by the same world. And I just saw a clip of Dave Allen from probably maybe the early 80s. And he's doing a routine that I did on the last tour. And he's doing it a lot more effectively. But he's doing that thing of, when I was young, we'd have all these aunties. The aunties would be in the house and they'd put a film on. They'd all sit there watching the film. And you're trying to watch the film. And they start out, don't they, with, oh, look at that. Who's that now? That's that actress who was she married to? And you just shut up, I'm watching the film. And then they're saying, now what have we seen him in before? He was in that one with so-and-so. And you think, why won't you just be quiet? Well, last night, or now, and of course the joke is he's doing exactly the same thing, because I did exactly that on the last tour. Had I seen Dave Allen do it? No. But I've lived a life and I've observed the same thing. I used to do a thing where I talked about how we say goodbye at the end of phone calls. And it's bye. And then I saw a trailer, and I was doing it on my tour. And then online, I came across on Amazon a trailer for one of Michael McIntyre's tours. He's doing exactly the same thing. And I'm not being self-effacing and saying that he was doing it better. He's awfully good, And
quite good, isn't he?
He's very good. He knows what he's doing. He's incredible at communicating an idea. He's amazing at crystallizing things with incredible clarity and economy. And anyway, I heard him do that. And I must say, my stomach went, I thought, oh my God, people are going to think. I said, but you don't do that because of that stomach sinking feeling. That's the last thing you'd want to happen.
I remember very clearly a gig. One of the acts had a bit about talking to somebody. Somebody's on their hands-free, and they're talking on their phone, and you don't realise they're on their phone.
Oh, yeah.
And you think they're talking to you.
Yeah.
And already at that point, that was quite a tired bit that people have all done a variation of. Again, because we've all noticed that, and it's funny. And there was an act on stage doing that bit. And the act who was stood next to me, who was on next, he didn't go, oh, he's doing a bit the same as me. Oh no, I just won't do my bit. He was livid. He stole my bit. That's my bit. I'm going,
Lord.
I think there could be the chance you've both had that idea. Yeah, because that's the thing with McIntyre
What did he say to that? Did this guy accept that, or was he still?
No, he was just walking around fuming. And then
that's an interesting character trait, though, isn't it? That's very interesting psychologically. That somebody, see, if I heard somebody doing something that I've done, I don't think I would have the whatever it is to think, oh, they've taken it from me.
No,
that's just not how my mind works. I would think they've had the same idea, and that's annoying. Because I used to do a very nice joke on the last tour about having 5 kids, and I said they're, and I go through they're 18, 17, 12, 4 and 1 or whatever. I said, with hindsight, we should have given them names.
Yeah.
And I've heard someone else do that, but I couldn't give it up. Because it felt, well, I thought I hadn't copied it. It had come to me, you know, and I just couldn't bear to give it up. Although I did with the Michael thing, I did because Michael's so prominent, you know, a hell of a lot of people are going to see that, you know, and they will just assume that I took it from him. But it's interesting, and you know, when people talk about the so-and-so comedian came out and he did this tired old, he did stuff about airlines and the difference between the sexes, that always irks me, because it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And you someone like Jerry Seinfeld is a great example of that. You know, I mean, he's always doing aging, the differences between the sexes, observational things, you know, but he does it at a level and a standard that is just astonishingly good. So I've sometimes seen reviews of him. They go, and he did that stuff about airlines. Well, yeah, but he does it pretty well, doesn't he?
And he flies a lot, so he's going to notice these things. That's the difference. In America, I noticed that for a while. If you noticed, in America, a lot of materials about aeroplanes, and in England, a lot of stories are on trains.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's the difference between, they fly everywhere. They have to. In England, we get trains to gigs. That's the difference.
That's so funny. Well, when I did the tour I did with you, I then took and did in Australia and New Zealand, and that was the first time that I'd flown between gigs. And as a huge Elvis fan, you know, I've seen a million documentaries about Elvis, and you see him getting on his plane, you know, and that felt very rock and roll, because in the UK you tend to drive or be driven or go by train. You may fly if you're going from London to Aberdeen or whatever, Edinburgh. Yeah. But even then, I'd rather take the train. It's a far more pleasant experience. It's quite a luxury, you know, to get on the train and spread the newspapers out and, you know, listen to music and stuff. But in Australia and New Zealand, and you're playing different towns, that's the closest I've come to, you know, hey, rock and roll, here we go.
What's the deal with the aeroplane food?
Yeah, what's the deal?
So you've, I like that. See, that's, again, I watch music documentaries all the time. If we're going to watch something on telly, sit down, I'll flick through Netflix. If there's a new music documentary, I'm like, oh. And if it's someone I love as well. Yeah. Like, so you've watched loads of Elvis documentaries.
Oh, everything that's ever been made, yeah.
made it very clear. You make it clear you're a massive Elvis fan. Can you remember how you got into Elvis? Was there a lightning bolt moment, or was it just gradual? He's there in the background.
I think he was there in the background. He died when I was 12, so my memory is that I was aware of some of the melodies. My memory is that a friend had the 40 Greatest Hits album, and I can remember being taken by King Creole, because at the beginning it goes do 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 do, and he goes King Creole, and that bass at the beginning, doom doom. I have a memory of finding that. Oh, that's interesting. Well, what is that? So, and then I would hear the odd bit. Then he died. But I was aware that Way Down, remember that was the last single, Way On Down, that came out and was on the radio. Then he died, and then he's in the press a lot, and you're all right. And then that Christmas, the BBC showed loads of his films. Now, of course, it's well documented they were not his creative peak, but they have an appeal. And so I got into that and then started to buy things, and it continues to this day. Hard to explain really how you can listen to one artist so much, but it just struck a chord with me.
Yeah. It is a weird thing where you get obsessed with just what, and you go through phases of listening to nothing else. You hear other stuff and go, but you just, I can imagine that with someone's love of Elvis, they have the same thing of that's why you recognise when I said how much I love Oasis. You imposed your love of Elvis, and imagine if that was an Elvis set list, I would want that. That's what you do. When people say to me they love Star Trek, I have no interest in Star Trek, never seen it, couldn't care less. But if they love that in the way I love Oasis, then good on you. You enjoy it. Yeah. But and with Elvis, there's so much stuff as well. There's so many great documentaries. But I'll tell you about liking. Shall I tell this story? Let me just think about this for a minute. Is there anything in this story that would not be good to share? No, this is fine. So went to see Paul Simon at Hyde Park a few years ago, and we were nice seats in this nice part, right? And we went with a group of friends. So there's about 4 couples. We're all very friendly. And one of the couples, they're all a bit. I'm the oldest person in that friendship group. Is that an Americanism in our friendship group? Yeah.
And so some of their music things. See, Oasis came. I'd already made my allegiances. I mean, I like them, and I like a lot of their songs, of course. And
I know what you mean. You've got your taste, you're set.
But they were. I was happy with Bruce, so I didn't need anybody else. Anyway, we get there and we're in this nice sort of hospitality area, and we're having a nice drink. And James Taylor was on first. Wow, I think Bonnie Raitt was playing as well. I love James Taylor. That's him now saying, "Are you mentioning me? Is there money in this?"
I've put it on aeroplane, but that's the wee alarm I told you about. 12 o'clock on the dot. 2 podcasts now. The wee alarms come on. I have to just turn my phone off.
Shall I just go and have a quick tinkle then? And
no, it's not for you.
Oh, okay.
It's for my children.
Oh, okay. I thought that was very kind of you. Anyway, so within this group of friends, there's one couple who are huge Oasis fans because they're young enough that when Oasis broke, they were still at a formative age, like you, right? Yeah, exactly. So how old are you?
I'm 40, so when...
Oh, right, yeah.
When What's the Story came out, I was 15, so perfect.
Okay, perfect, the sweet spot. Yeah. Well, anyway, we're stood there, and we look across a few hospitality areas. Isn't it funny how one is wary of saying that you're in a hospitality area and not just sweating it out with everybody? And for that, I turn again to Jerry Seinfeld, who seems to have a lot of things figured, And he said, there's a great interview he did recently. I forget what it was for. And the interview, and it's on Zoom, of course. And the interviewer says to him, "You're in a different place here, Jerry. I noticed you do a few interviews, but you're somewhere else." And he goes, and I think he says something like, "Yeah, that's our beach house, and this is our townhouse." And the interviewer kind of goes, "Oh," as if to say, "You want to share that?" And Seinfeld goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was told we had to try to do well."
Yes. That's the thing with Seinfeld. People think that he's like softy sort of observational comedies.
Oh,
Bill Burr put it, his stand-up's about nothing. You're missing the point. It's about he's angry about 99% of things in the world.
Well, what I love about him is his clarity. I really love that. There's another bit that ties in with that line of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was told we were meant to try to do well," right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, why not? There's another bit where he, on one of the comedians in Cars, he's interviewing, I think it's Ali Wentworth. And I think they've got kids at the same school, maybe, and they're talking about parent-teacher evenings. And he talks about how kids, in his view, have an easy ride these days. We mollycoddle them. And he said he was at a parent-teacher evening, and he said that one of the teachers said to him, that going from, I don't know, grade 4 to grade 5, let's say, it can be quite an adjustment for the child. And he said, "Really? Well, how about this? Adjust."
There's this brilliant interview of him doing. Have you seen the documentary Comedian?
Well, what do you think?
Of course you have. Why did I ask you that? Sorry. Edit that bit. Yeah, I love that bit. I just told this just the other day. The bit where he's talking to Orny Adams, and he said, I should be higher up. I should be doing better." People my age, they're getting on in life, and he's like, "Was there something else you'd rather do? Somewhere else you'd rather be?"
Yeah.
He goes, and then he tells that story of the you'll know the story. There's probably variations of it. The orchestra, that their bus has broken down, and they're trudging through the snow. They're carrying their instruments, and they see this little house in the background, and they think, "Well, we'll walk there and see if we can borrow their phone." And they're all wet, they're damp, tired. The bus is broken down. Carry their instruments. They get to the house. They look through the window, and there's this picture book family scene. They're all sat around the dinner table, kids, and eating. The fire's roaring. There's a dog, and they look through the window and go, "How could people live like that?"
Yeah.
And Seinfeld goes, that sums it up.
Yeah.
And you could see that comedian he was talking to just didn't get it. And
I know.
I didn't know much about Seinfeld at that point, and from that documentary, from that point, I thought, I love him.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you were talking about being in the VIP.
Oh, yeah. Hospitality. Right. So it's divided into different things, sponsored by different, dreadful companies.
Yeah.
And as I look at about 3 or 4 away, there's Noel Gallagher, who I've met at various things over the years, and we've chatted, and that's all fine and dandy. So we make eye contact, and we smile and da-dee-dee. And, you do some silly sort of mime as if to say, "Are you having a drink? Are you eating? Oh, we're going to see Paul Simon. Isn't this exciting? Wasn't James Taylor good?" And all that stuff. And then we go back to just chatting with our friends. And then lo and behold, Noel has come round to our bit, he and Sarah, his wife. And in they come. And I'm very pleased to see him because he's a funny guy. He's a witty, dry. He's very good company. He's got a lot to say, and we're stood there. But of course, I realise as we're talking, and I'm introducing him to my friends, that for 2 of them, this is like meeting Elvis. This is wow. And then so we chatted, and they stayed for 10, 15 minutes. It was all very nice, and then they went back to their bit. And these 2 in particular, the wife of in this one couple was almost speechless. It was
I would have had to go home at that point. You wouldn't watch Paul Simon. No, I'd have had to go home. I'd have to go and have a bit of a lie down after that.
But it was great. Well, no, he's a big Seinfeld fan. I think he's told the story publicly how Oh, maybe he hasn't, so I won't share that one.
I think he has.
About Seinfeld, he's told that his wife surprised him with a visit. Oh yeah. Okay, well, yeah. He loves that. And there was one other thing he told me. I can't remember now. But yeah. So I don't know why did we say that? Was that just because you were talking about how much you love Oasis?
I think so. And I was going to say, I think you like that as well. The musicians that being great at music, love that, and when they're funny as well and can talk between songs. And you recently interviewed someone, and I watched the interview, and it made me watch the documentary because I knew it was coming up. And you reminded me, Kelly Jones.
Oh yeah,
and that reminds me of when I was supporting you on tour. Do you remember? I did a warm up for a TV show, and the Stereophonics were on.
Yeah,
and Kelly Jones walked direct. Now I've seen Stereophonics probably more than 10 times at least.
Yeah.
I went through a phase of listening to nothing else but Performance and Cocktails for probably a good 8 months, nothing else. That was on at house parties, people sang along to it. Kelly Jones walked yards from me. I could have easily have just gone, all right, Kelly, big fan of your music. Easy as that. And I went, ah. And he walked past. And I told you this as a story of what an idiot I am. And I said to you, I said, I don't want to racially stereotype you as a Welsh person, but do you like the Stereophonics? And your answer was, yeah, Kelly Jones played at my 50th with Paul Weller.
No, hang on, no, that's not strictly true. We have to be precise here. No. Weller wasn't there. But no, Kelly. Yes, Kelly came to my
Kelly's
birthday
wedding.
party.
Weller was there, but your
That's
birthday.
right. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm mixing up the dream scenarios you've been in.
No, I mean, listen, it's very appealing to think that the changing man would go underground and
Lovely.
and he would start to sing something at my wedding, and people would say that's entertainment. And
wow, these are just. I feel I should have one at least. I've got nothing here.
I'm trying to think of one of the Style Council songs. Was it Long Hot Summer? Did they do that?
Impressive if you got a Style Council one in.
He's an intense guy, isn't he, Paul Weller? I mean, in a lovely way. But
well, that's what you said about Kelly Jones. So he played
Kelly's intense.
50th.
Yeah. Yes.
But there was how did you invite him and ask him to play, or did your wife organise that?
No. I invited him and Jackie to come to the party because we had a big party, and there was a band at the party.
Convenient.
And
this could work out.
And I think, because at his wedding I'd got up and deputised for an absent Tom Jones, and they sang "Mama Told Me Not to Come."
Easy job.
And Paul Weller had to leave the stage to make room, and Ronnie Wood was the Stereophonics, and then Ronnie Wood was playing guitar as well. My good Lord. And Paul Weller it was a tiny stage, to go off for me to come up. And then as I left the stage and Paul Weller was come back on, he said to me, it was either you've still got it, Rob, or you haven't lost it.
Oh, brilliant. So Weller's funny as well.
Oh, he was great. Yeah, no, he's very nice.
He's funny.
Well, look, these are incredibly creative people, and I mean, you're talking about gifted people, you know.
Can you remember at your birthday anything? Can you remember what you sang with Kelly?
Yes, I can remember. We did that again. We did that. Mama Told Me Not to Come. But then he, without warning, because he took a guitar from one of the band, and he started doing Dakota. And it was amazing.
Party track.
Imagine that. Imagine somebody comes along and, okay, we're going to sing whatever. And he does his huge
signature closing an arena song.
And people, you could see people's faces. They were like, wow. So that was great. And he's, that documentary he did, Don't Let the Devil Take Another Day.
Yeah. I knew it was coming up. And then I saw your interview alerted to me to the release date. And I love that bit that you spoke to him about. I could see that crossover of stand-up and music where I've never thought of that. What you said to him about he said when you record a song, sometimes that's only the second time you've actually played it.
Yes.
I've never thought of that. So then, that could be in your set for the next 20 years.
That was remarkable. That hadn't occurred to me. So let's say that when they did Dakota, as an example, when they record it, they've not really done it that much. They've got it to a point where they think, this is good, and then they live with it. But the main thing in that documentary I thought was fascinating, and why people should go and watch it, is that he has this throat problem and he has throat surgery, and he has to relearn singing. And you see him, he just films himself on his phone trying to sing songs that he's always sung, so they're stereophonic songs, and he literally cannot reach the notes. And we sat there watching it, and did you find it very tense? I
find it uncomfortable.
Ooh,
because you know the songs, and you're sat on the sofa thinking, well, I could sing that now.
Yeah. And
I could sing that better than him now. That's and
I don't doubt it for a moment.
Thank you. But I did the frustration of him just going fuck off like that. He couldn't. Just a simple note that would have been he'd have done without thinking. Well,
because for someone like him, I mean, that's his superpower, isn't it? That's the thing that's built. Voice. That's what's built his life. That's how the way he lives, what he does, it all comes from that. So it's like with me, if I were unable to do the cage fighting, I'd feel
you wouldn't really be Rob Brydon anymore.
I'd feel I have nothing,
You've lost who you are.
Yeah.
That's a good job. You can still grapple.
I don't do it as much as I did, but I certainly, like a couple of times a month, I want to get back in there just to show that I can, as much as anything else. And there's so many young guys coming up now, and I always say to them, don't go easy on me. Just do what you would do with one of the others. And again, that can be a mistake, because I've had absolute, 7 bells kicked out of me. But sometimes I'll come out on top. I like this. I like the smell. I think that's. I thought about it. What is it about it? And I think it's just the smell. So my wife has said, well, what if we just try to get the smell? So we're trying now to get trying to get some of the other guys' costumes and sort of ring them into a bottle, and we're seeing if I can sort of be weaned off it by just having the smell.
Using their juice as essential oil, in a way. Yeah. You've got to give it up at some point, Rob. You can't keep this going because you. Well, they say
it's a worry for the family. That it's them more than me, because every time I go to do it, the kids think, are we going to see Daddy again? Back? Is he coming back? Yeah.
Yeah, and they must be. I imagine your wife stopped watching a long time ago. She can't watch.
She can't bear to be there.
She can't bear to be there.
Yeah. When I go, she'll have a friend come round to the house and sit with her. And that friend will
on the
stay.
Wireless, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a bit like in that film Ford
Cinderella.
Ferrari, where she's listening to Christian Bale in Le Mans or somewhere. It's very similar in our house.
But you will have to give up at some point, and then you can go back on tour. That's really what you need to be doing.
Well, the thing I've been thinking of is, can I blend the two? Because my trumpet player is quite handy. So we're looking now into the viability of getting a smaller cage on the stage during these shows, and we just beat the hell out of each other. And we might even just do it during the interval, so that because it's not for everyone, and it will just be those audience members that want that. But if you don't want that, you can just go to the bar.
Like sometimes you're in the middle of a big orchestra, you'll have just bring it down, have an acoustic moment or something. Instead, you're going to bring on a small scale down octagon, and then just 3 rounds. You think?
No, I wouldn't do that much. I do a sort of exhibition round to start, and then just a slam then.
Just finish on a slam.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
I mean, I've not mentioned it to the trumpet player, so let's see how he feels about that.
Thank you very much, Rob. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Listen, I've really enjoyed it, Andrew, and thank you for your companionship and support on the tour, because it was great. I loved having you round and watching your act. And
I text Jen, your wonderful tour manager, to say I was speaking to you today. She's going to listen to the podcast. And she says she misses our little trio, and hopefully we'll all get together at some point. I think you need to develop that character that you were working on during the tour. You were just developing it as we were going on in your dressing room.
What was that?
Lovey actor from the 1920s.
Really?
Where I'd knock on the door and you go, Andrew, is that you?
Really?
Come closer. Come closer.
Oh yes, I've always liked, if I'm ever filming something, a drama or a comedy or something, I love the idea of the very old actor who walks incredibly slowly. So I remember I would do that backstage. I'd walk very slowly, painfully slowly.
Hold your arm.
Yes, and reaching out and touching the wall occasionally and bits of furniture. And then when the director would say, okay, so what we're going to do here is you do this, you do that, you do this. And you go, right, so I pick up the book, I look at the book, put the book down, and I turn. Look at the table, walk. Right. And I find that, it's a limited audience, of course, but I find that very funny.
I find it very funny when you shout at Jen like she wasn't paying you enough attention as an elderly, decrepit man. There was a bit where there was a slight small step, and you said, Jen, come back here, don't just walk away. Come and hold me, as you made her hold your arm as you walked down it.
Well, when we did the trip, Steve and I would do a thing where we would be two of these kind of people, and the first assistant director on that is called Zoe, and we would refer to her as the girl, because that's something that actors might do.
Yeah, in the old days.
We get thinking, well, where's the girl? Well, the girl is meant to be bringing me a coffee. Does anybody know where she is? Or Michael Winterbottom directs it, so you'd go, Michael, where's the girl? Or you get to the end of a scene, maybe where you're holding something, and you'd go, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Where's the girl? That's one way of doing it, but the other way of doing it is that you're very vulnerable, so that you go, well, I thought I'd give it to the girl, but where is she? And then when they do take it, oh, you are very sweet. Oh, thank you, my darling. You are awfully. Isn't she good? I was just saying, isn't the girl helpful? And that whole other era, I find fascinating.
I very much enjoyed that. That needs to be developed more. Just I'd walk in, you go, come closer. I can't see you over there.
All right. Well, listen, lovely to talk to you, and I hope to see you in person soon, when we can all see each other.
Oh, I'll be bothering someone. You said at the end of the tour, you very politely and nicely and graciously said, if you ever need any help, just let me know. And I've already exploited that, having you here today, and I will do that further.
It's the very least I could do, which is what I always try to do.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks very much.
A podcast from producer Paul.co.uk.